Hey guys, I decided to show you, put a deer feeder out in my front yard so I get to look out my office window and see these guys. We had 14 last night, but there's only 6 or 7 of them out there right now. But I decided to take a minute and show you a frivolous start to the video and have a look. Hey, good afternoon everybody. It's Wednesday, it's December 11th, it's 6 p.m. It's really time to do the next part in our series. Again, I don't know how many parts it's going to be, but this is part 6 of our life, business, and finance series. And I think we're going to go ahead and call it something like "Where are you going?" or "How much is enough?" So it's been too long since my last part, but let's just go do a quick review. We did part 1 of this series, went live on September 28th. And then the last part of the Q&A series was part number 7 on the Q&A side of the house. And that went up on October 1st. And then part 5, the last part of this series, went up on October 9th. So it's been 2 months since we've put anything up. So we've had quite a bit of engagement on the series, and it's really time to keep it moving. So I hope you find this enjoyable. So one of the things I've talked about on just, I think, every part we've had put up or that we've done on this series, there's been a component to, I hope you're doing more than just watching these videos as entertainment. I'm hoping that you'll take action. I don't mean everyone who watches them. I mean, hundreds of people are watching these things now, but I don't expect hundreds of people to be taking action, but hopefully some of you that are asking questions and want to know more are actually going beyond watching, and you're actually doing. And what I'd like to do is take a few minutes and talk about the actions that I've laid out for you in the first several parts. Then we'll move forward and do the same thing for this part 6. So the actions really for me to you kind of started back on session 2, what we called Analyze Yourself. And in that one we gave, there's some really kind of hard things to do, but they're very simple things to do. And I just want to reiterate them in case people aren't going back and watching the full series. So the first part that I think you need to do is make lists. And these are 1-pagers, right? These aren't long. But so listen, what are you doing now that you should stop doing? And what are the things you're not doing that you should? And just make those 2 lists, get them prioritized. And then the more important thing was, don't scrutinize over the list, but pick something and actually start doing something you're not and stop doing something that you shouldn't be doing. And again, that'd be a today thing. So whenever you're watching this part 6, hopefully you've either done your list and actually started down them, or stop this and go do your list and pick something to start doing and pick something to stop doing, and make sure you get that moving. So a couple things on the start list would have been, as examples that I think I gave you was, do your list, pick them, and get moving. I had 2 stop items for you. One is stop wasting time, whether it be television, YouTube, gaming, whatever it is, stop wasting so much time on it. And then the other is stop overspending. If you have large balances on credit cards, particularly as we head into the holiday season, either for others or for yourself, you might start or pick back up or continue or even make worse an overspending habit. So those are the 2 stop items I'd really wanted to reiterate. Stop wasting time and stop overspending. So in part 3, we called it Watch Your Language, and there it was really watch how you talk. And what I asked you to do is get rid of a couple of words. I asked you to stop using things like not and don't and replace it with words such as am, do, and will. So, please focus on what you do want to happen, on what you do want to accomplish, and what you do want to see, and stop focusing on what you don't want to happen and what you don't want to do and what you're not willing to do. So getting rid of the don'ts and nots is pretty critical in retraining your brain and retraining how you think and talk, and retraining the image you're putting out into the world of a negative one or the avoidance of negative, and really concentrating on what you do want and moving forward positively into the world. In part 4, I think we called it Get Your Act Together. And really I was trying to give you some tools. And the first is a to-do list. Again, I showed you mine. It was 1 page. It's prioritized, it's typed in, it's something you can go through. I don't care what app you use, just the fact that you started using it. Do you have a to-do list? Is everything from all aspects of your life, all the expectations that are laid upon you, are they written down? Are they prioritized so you can begin walking down them? Do you look at it every day? Do you scratch on it and maintain it every day? If you're not, it's a big tool that you're not using. The other one was a calendar function of some kind, so you can put meetings and due dates and expectations upon you, so you stop double booking or forgetting or missing deadlines. Those are critical things. And then the last piece I think we talked about was, can you use your calendar tool to push deadlines and things out further, so you become aware of them much earlier. So when things are 2 months out, you start to work them, they don't run over you, and you find out that they're due tomorrow, or worse, they were due yesterday. So you have a to-do list, and are you using it, and are you using a calendar function, and are you getting ahead of things? Those are the actions from part 4. So the last part we put up was part 5, and it was, where are you now? And really 2 actions came out of that. One was do a financial inventory of your life, all the things you owe and all the money you have on one sheet of paper, and how does it look? And I think we talked quite a bit about it was probably going to look pretty ugly, but it's best to write it down and rip that Band-Aid off and stare that beast in the face and not go around so naive or so uninformed of where you really are. So did you do it? And then the last part was at least read a book. And the book I recommended, if you had not read it, was Dave Ramsey's. So I don't know, I guess the same question. So have you done any of these things? Do you have your list? Have you started things and stopped things? Have you watched your language? Have you created your inventories? Have you read the books? Have you done any of these things? And if not, it's going to be very hard to move on to this next one, because the next one we're not talking about not your past or your present, but we're talking about where you want to go forward to, and that's the where are you headed? How much is enough? So please, again, if you're watching these for entertainment, that's great. It seems a little dry and boring to me, but if you're doing these to actually change your life, please have taken these steps before you try to proceed forward. It's very hard to add things to your life if you don't have your act together. So we're going to talk specifics and numbers in a minute, but the whole point of this video now is where are you going? You've taken inventory, you know where you are, you're probably not very happy with it. Most people who are watching these kind of videos are looking for help. Some are looking to excel a good situation into a better one, but many are trying to take a bad situation and making it better. And so you've got your inventory, you know where you stand. So where do you want to be? And there's a couple things that I want to make sure we try to help you with. One is, let's be realistic, but let's also, so I want to gate some of your thinking is what I'm trying to say here. This video is asking what and why. So what is your number? And the question is, how much money do you want to make in a year? That's typically how we think about it. So I'll just continue that. What do you want your salary to be? What do you want your income to be at the end of this cycle? So let's just try to keep this simple. It doesn't make it easy, but let's keep it simple. And that is, what do you want your annual revenue or income or salary to be? And then we'll figure out how big your investment nest egg needs to be to produce that, and what to plan for in your life. But the question really is, how much is enough? What do you want this to be? And the other question is why? What are you trying to accomplish with this? Are you simply trying to live a good life and take care of your family, or do you have larger goals? I don't really care what they are, but I really care more that you do, that you know what you were trying to do and why. For me, I'll just personalize this. For me, it was taking care of the rest of my life, make sure my wife never had to worry about money, and really try to set both of my kids up so when I'm gone, both kids can make life decisions free of trying to scrape up money and salary. Now, I don't know if that's going to affect either one of my kids. My son is certainly off doing things that would lead me to believe he's not trying to rely on our money. But those are my goals, was to take care of myself and my wife, and the future goals, some of the travel, and you've seen my cars and my racing. And then make sure my wife can do what she chooses to do, take care of a horse farm, and then leave a legacy of wealth for both my children. And for me, the larger why was I picked a career path in a company that really protected the bubble that surrounds the United States and our way of life, our intelligence community, and our criminal justice system. Those are important to me, because without those lines, we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing in our society. So that was the larger goal for me. That was the larger why, and that's what got me to work day to day. So I had a financial goal, and then the goal of really making our country as safe as I could. So that's the other thing I would think about is when you talk about why. So we're talking about what and why. How much is enough? What's your number? What are we basing that on? And what's your why? What are you trying to accomplish with it? So as you work through these next parts, as you work through the what, how much is enough? And how does that nest egg need to be sized to produce it for you? The thing I would ask you to avoid is the how. So today is about what and why. The other question that sometimes we get stuck on is how. So let's say you need a $4 million nest egg to produce what you want to produce. You could get stuck and say, well, how am I going to do that? That's for future videos. As we talk about how we get ready for you to start a business, because that's kind of how this all started, was people asking me, how do I start a business? How do I get ready for it? And really up through now, even this part 6 is really all about getting you ready so that you could stack another brick on your life, and that would be getting ready to create a company. All these parts, even up through tonight, is really getting you ready and your life ready and getting your act together so that you can really begin to put real serious effort on creating the wealth building engine that you're looking for. I sure hope you're not asking me what that should be, but today is not how. And sometimes how, we get stuck on it, right? You stop thinking about what you want, you stop thinking about why you want it, because you get stuck on the how. So don't do that. Stick on the numbers, stick on why they're there, and we'll talk about how later. All right, everybody, let's go ahead and talk about how much is enough. And I used, basically I used 100 grand. I have no idea how much money you need to run your life, or how much you want when you're done, whether you call it retired or financially independent, or, whatever words or term you want to use. The question is, how those words turn into numbers. And so the first thing you have to do is go back to the list concept. And I know you might be getting list fatigue by, in this series, but at least for me, I promised you I would tell you how I did it and what worked for me. And what works for me are lists. And so what do you spend money on? List all your bills and how many are debt and how many do you intend to have when you're financially independent. Some would say, and what I did is I got rid of all my debt before I actually sold my company. I spent the 2 years prior to the sale of DHA paying down all my debt. So when I sold the company, the nest egg that came out of that sale went straight to the investment account. But you don't have to do like me. Some of you may not want to wait till you're 55 or 60 or 65 to do this. And some of you may need 20 or 30 years to put this together. And that's typically where people start clicking off, right? Is like, I want it now, I want it this year, I want it by the end of the year, I want it by the end of next year. And it might be 10 years or 20 years from now. Again, I'll reiterate, it took me 25 years to build DHA. And it took 33 years from graduating from college to the sale of DHA. So what you see today is, 33 years in the making. And I know it seems like forever. If you're a high schooler or a college student, 33 years sounds like forever. But I'll tell you, on the other end of it, talking back down the pipe at you, 55 is still pretty young and pretty fun to have the money and pretty fun to be independent. So please don't shy away from this whole concept of financial independence just because you can't stand the thought of a 20 or 30 year road. So, but let's take $100,000. Let's say you've done all your noodling and done all your lists, and you'd like to make $100,000 a year from your investments. And so, what does that mean? And I'll try to type these up and put them up here on the screen as I edit this later tonight. But if you need to make $100,000, there are two things you need to be aware of. Is that net of taxes and net of fees. And so every dollar you make is going to come through a capital gains grinding machine. And so essentially for me here in Maryland, I have to take 30 cents of every dollar I make an investment and run it, give it to capital gains tax. I think it's like 25% goes to the feds, and essentially 5% goes to Maryland. It's not quite that perfect, but it's close enough. It's actually a little bit less, but I'm conservative. So 30 cents of every dollar I make in the investment account goes away to capital gains if I take it. So that means for you to take your $100,000 net out at the end of the year or throughout the year, you have to actually make $130,000. So the other thing is, how much money do you need in your investment account to make $130,000 in a year? What kind of return on investment do you need? And so, my advisor and I have really worked out. I would like to be risk averse, and so, we are planned at 6% a year. So I need my calculation, if I were doing it for your spreadsheet, would be 6% a year. And so if you need to make $130,000, so 30 of it can go to taxes, and you get 100, at 6%, you would need to have $2,167,000 in your investment account. And if you're sitting here at zero, that probably seems like a Mount Everest to you. It's not, and there are many machines to show you how to get from zero to $2 million, but that machine will take 20 or 25 or 30 years to get you there. This video is not going to show you that. Compound interest, if you read Dave Ramsey's books or any of the other research I asked you to do, you'll see those machines, you'll see those spreadsheets. You can turn nothing into $200 to $2,167,000, but you have to get on the plan, stick to that plan every month, and you may have to roll through it for 20, 25, 30 years. Maybe not a great story, but again, I'm trying to tell you kind of how to do it. So again, I'm not really how, but what, right? The what and the why. So, you know where you are now. Hopefully you've done that research and you know where you are financially now. And if you do this kind of work and really decide how much money you need to spend on a monthly basis and on what, and then add that up and get a yearly number, you now know how to calculate the number back through capital gains tax to get you to a number that you need in the bank, that you need in your investment account to get you to that number. So again, it's $100,000. Then you need to make 130 because 30 goes to capital gains. And to do that at 6% return on investment, you need 2.167 million in the bank. Let's just leave it there for a minute. All right, so we've gone through kind of what many of you might consider some nightmare calculations to figure out what you want versus what you'll need to do to create that. I understand that is probably not, might actually be demoralizing and not very inspiring, but at least you know. And if you do this part of the homework, you'll actually know now how much money you need to put in your investment account to get the kind of money you're looking for. It's pretty extrapolable. If you only want 50K instead of 100, you can certainly change that number. And if you need $1 million a year, the number obviously gets much, much larger. So, but the reason that is so important is it gets you your number. All right. So you need to know, you now know how much money you need in your investment account to accomplish one of your key life goals. And that is, how do you become financially independent? And where that is important is you now have the first point of why you might start your own company. And that is to earn money. Now, there's lots of other reasons, but most of us start our own company, to make money. And now, how much money? And I counsel a lot of CEOs, and one of the places we get stuck on a lot is, why are you doing this? And if you're doing it for money, if you're doing it to give yourself some financial independence, which usually it's far easier to create financial independence working for yourself than working for somebody else, then you now need to know how big you got to grow your company. And if you need, what was the example? 2.1 million, 2.2 million. Then you need to build a company that either allows you to sell that either allows you to make enough money in excess of what you need to live to save that kind of money, or you need to build a company that someone is willing to in the future come and pay you $2.2 million for, or whatever the gross amount needs to be, so you can put 2.2 in the bank. So that's why I'm making such a big deal about this. It's step 6 or phase 6 or part 6 of this series is, how much money do you need? Because that is a huge telling point for what you need to do to create a company, or why you're creating a company. God, I'm messing this up. You now know how much money you need to get from your company or get for the sale of your company. You now have a fundamental starting point, because you don't want to start a company or get into it with having some idea of what your exit plan is. And now you have the first piece of that, what you'll need to exit it. You'll have either put that much money in the bank and it's time to sell a company, or it's worth that much and you can now sell it and attain a life goal. So anyway, that's why it's so key. It's key to the next step in this part, and the next part of this series. All right. So just in case you think you've heard all the bad news, you haven't. So there's two pieces you need to be aware of about your nest egg. We calculated out that to make the $100,000, you need 2.167. Is that right? 2.167 in the bank. But there are two factors you need to think about. And I'm not a tax guy. I'm not a CPA. I'm not a financial advisor. So don't hang this on me. You really need to talk to some professionals, okay? But there are two other things you need to be aware of. One is you need to protect your nest egg from inflation. Because $100,000 today, if you live 20 more years, the $100,000 in 20 years will not make it. So you need to protect your nest egg from inflation. And that means you got to leave some of the money that you make in your nest egg to protect it. And the general rule is you want to protect from a 2% inflation rate. I don't think we're running anywhere near that right now. But again, I talk conservative, I plan conservative, and I live conservative. So you want to be aware of that. So make sure your financial planner knows about that, and ask them how they're planning for your to protect you from inflation. And then the other is whatever financial plan you have, or asset you have, or money machine you have, most likely you're going to be paying financial fees. I pay them to mine. I use Wells Fargo. But they're all relatively the same on fees. And so for you to be net of fees, you don't want that to cut into the money you make, and you don't want that to cut into the money that's paying back or protecting you from inflation. So that's the third thing to factor in. So how much money you need, what is your taxation, and then how are you going to protect from inflation? And then actually the fourth thing is how much financial fees do you need to plan for? All that comes out of your financial plan. So not a great thing, I get it, but I'm trying to teach you the real world. So that's really it. If you do this homework, you now know how much money you need your company to spin off, whether you sell it or own it for a number of years. That's really it. I'm going to end this video by taking you around the house and showing you some of my Christmas decorations, so I can end this on a positive note. But that's really it, and I'll talk to you later, guys. Bye. Really frivolous ending to this video is to show you, this is our not our family room, this is our living room, Christmas tree. My wife kind of likes the classic all white look, so that's what we did in here. I'll throw you a little shot of the dog. That's Chance. Hello, buddy. Chance is a big napper. He's 5 years old, but he acts like he's 10. But he's a lovable dog. He's my favorite. All right, everybody, this is our main Christmas tree. This is in our family room. This thing is 16 feet tall, and boy, is it a pain in the ass to put up. Anyway, like I said, it's artificial. We've used it 22 of the 24 Christmases that we've been in this house. Anyway, I assemble it myself. It's like about 18 levels of branches, and it is about 50 strings of lights to get it to look like this. But it's fun. It's been part of the family for an awfully long time, and we love it. It's part of the family at this point. We wouldn't be Christmas if we didn't put this thing up. All right, everybody, that's it. Hopefully you liked the video. Thanks for being a part of it. If you stayed this long, you are truly a trooper. So hope everybody has a Merry Christmas, and we'll talk soon. Bye, everybody.